Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the American Scouser TV's pre-match show. We are here to preview this big match tonight with Arsenal in Philadelphia. I am joined, of course, with our friend Brian Shelton, who is actually inside tonight, so his wife allowed him to do a recording from inside the home and not outside the front door. Brian, how are we, my friend?
Doing great, thanks. How about yourself?
I'm hanging in there, man. It's Wednesday. It's hump day. We are trying to get to this match. We got about 45 minutes to go. Stephen Cook chimes in quickly with "Let's go." And honestly, if you are watching us tonight on YouTube, X, Instagram, Twitter, wherever you're catching us, Facebook or YouTube, give us a like, give us a subscribe. Don't forget to leave your comments. We'll bring them up throughout the show, and we will see exactly what we can do here to get the conversation started. So, as I mentioned, Brian, we may have a few other folks join us tonight. Tonight's match is against Arsenal. Obviously, I do feel like Arsenal is a different type of animal and beast, right, to bring in here. Comparatively to, really thinking about having, the conversation behind Real Betis and what we saw in Pittsburgh. This is a much, much greater challenge. Speaking of a challenge, we'll bring in our good friend here from California who was challenging himself to get home in time to make it to this pod, and he got there right in time. Sir Z, how are you doing tonight, my man?
I'm good, thanks. How are you? Just driving 70 miles an hour down 40 miles an hour road. Yeah, that's commitment.
That's the dedication we give to you people for these broadcasts. We will break laws. We will put our children in danger. We will do whatever is needed to get here and talk about Liverpool Football Club. That is just a joke. Sir Z would never put his children in danger unless it meant winning multiple Champions League titles.
Correct.
Then questions are off. Ryan Thompson jumps in. Yo, boys, go Reds. We appreciate it, Ryan. It's going to be a fun night here tonight. So let's get this thing started. Let's talk about the lineups. But before we talk about the lineup, there have been all kinds of social media and information shared so far from Philadelphia. Some funny, some ridiculous. I felt all the boxing and fighting analogies that we've seen almost came apropos in like a full circle when you see the team actually did a photo at the Rocky statue. And I know in Discord today we joked about all the idiots running up the stairs, and I think Gordo on the morning show even mentioned, like, how could you record the players running the stairs if you had all the stupid tourists running it? But my favorite part on these international tours is sometimes seeing the lads act like tourists, right? Like, they're enjoying being in the same club that Rocky's, boxing scenes were filmed in. I think this is the part they really like. And Sir Z, I'll start with you. I'll admit, I kind of like seeing them in boxing gyms and doing athletic things rather than riding bikes as a club with weird helmets around like random areas of Spain. Like, I'm not saying Slot's tactics are better than Klopp's. Let's not go there yet. But I'll take hand-to-hand combat over cyclist activities any day of the week. You?
The helmets weren't even locked on, so if they fell off the bike, the helmets would come off anyway. But no, it's good. I mean, yeah, it's touristy, but it's good to see them bonding, I guess, more than anything. Might look silly to us, but no, I'm glad, it's a new manager is getting them to bond. We saw Carvalho making a Philly cheesesteak today and eating that. Like, they're just doing what all tourists would do. So they're enjoying themselves. I still don't know why Gomez isn't there. Even Gravenberch managed to turn up. So, but yeah, it's a good bonding session.
It's Brian, we'll go to you on this one before we go to the lineup. So Sir Z brought up Gomez. And I was a little shocked myself that he didn't voluntarily go to the tour with a hope of trying to win himself a spot. And then Gravenberch shows up today earlier than required, which makes me think he wants to earn himself a spot. Is today's news about Gomez potentially being in outgoing transfers to potentially being offered a deal and maybe looking for his own move? Do you think maybe there is a little bit of smoke to this fire, that it's not just we offered him to Newcastle, but maybe he's offered up to the club, he's interested in a move?
I mean, we talked about most of the past year and all the podcasts right there that Gomez is going to be itching for a move this summer to try to get first team. I mean, it was bound to happen right there, and I think he's a willful person to go. I kind of wish that move would have made sense. The move made sense right there before the financial fair play stuff came with Newcastle. But I mean, I still think that Gomez is going to go. I thought Villa was really hard on him, was like really sniffing him out last year, and to make that move, but he's going to go somewhere. I mean, because he wants playing time, and so it's going to happen.
Yeah, it's funny. I made that comment this morning, I think, in one of the Discord channels, right, Sir Z? Like, I understand Gomez to some level, and coming off this summer, like, if I'm Gomez, I'm probably thinking to myself, like, if I was at Aston Villa or Crystal Palace this year playing regular minutes at center back, I might have been starting the entire Euros for the favorite of the Euros. And instead, he was, let's not even call him an unused substitute. He was an unwanted player on the trip. Like, I'm not even sure they let him actually train. Like, it didn't even look, I think I saw him warm up once, and it was almost like Southgate was like, just run out there to make sure that they don't complain when you come back after spending the whole summer. So do you think this move is as much about Liverpool thinking about the future, or potentially Gomez believing it's time for him to finally prioritize his future?
I think he signed that contract because of Klopp. And, anyone not even playing games it's hard to say no to Klopp. And I think, obviously, when he signed that, he didn't know that Klopp was going to leave and so forth. And if this transfer rumor is true and it happened weeks ago, then he's probably thinking, wait a minute, like, Slot hasn't even seen me. And if he's willing to let me go, then why bother make that trip? Obviously, the club don't want me. And I mean, for his own case, for his own ambitions, and Liverpool tend to do right by their players. If he's not going to get a chance, and he's going to play second fiddle to like someone like Kwanzaa, who just literally just broke in last season, and by all accounts, it looks like Vandenberg might get a chance too. If he's going to be behind them two, then yeah, he has to leave. As much as I don't want him to, and it's been a stalwart for the club. For his own, he's at the peak of his career. He needs to move on for his own sake.
Yeah, I kind of agree there. And I've been saying it for a couple of years now. I've been expecting him to angle for a move, because I feel like at this age, you have to be playing football. You can't be a reserve player at 27 years old. And he was the starter on the best defensive side in Europe when they won the league and were the best. I mean, you could argue at that point, there was an argument that as good as Van Dijk was that year, that Gomez was just as good. And I think part of what made Trent so good was he had Gomez on one side of him and Henderson in front of him. And I just question whether or not I'd love to see him given a real chance to win back his number one center back partnership with Virgil. But I also wouldn't begrudge him if he said, you know what? I just missed out on playing in the Euros in my prime with a team that could win it, to watch a guy from Crystal Palace who's had 2 years in Europe. And then Kwanzaa gets a start.
Yeah.
Another good player at Villa, but he's not better than Gomez. I'd argue if Gomez is at Crystal Palace or Villa, he starts over those players based on his form and his history. And by the way, I would take both those players at Liverpool right now as depth to center back, because I would take anyone right now at depth for anywhere. So before we bring up the lineup, let's welcome in our newest contributor, the Minnesota Scouser, as his name is so clearly there. Blake, nice to meet you. Nice to have you on the pod.
Nice to meet you
Welcome.
guys. Thank you. Nice to meet
Cheers,
you
Blake.
guys. Cheers.
So before we look at the lineup, we quickly touched on Gomez, kind of the rumors, because it kind of came through with our conversations about who isn't in camp. What's your take on the Gomez story coming out today? Let's take away the links to the Gordon deal. What is your feeling when it comes to Gomez, whether he should stay, he should go, both from a club standpoint and the player standpoint?
I think if it's better for him that he should go, because I don't think he's going to get much time under Slot. But then again, he hasn't had any playing time under Slot, so we don't know how that's going to work out. I think if it's a right deal for a club and him, I think then he should go. I mean, he's 27. He's got plenty of time left, so he should go see if he can go start somewhere else.
Brian, if you were Gomez, his handlers, his agents, what type of club would you be looking at? Would you be trying to force your way into like a Villa and fight to get into the Champions League? Would you be looking to go to a place like Newcastle where you might win a starting spot and bring them back into European competitions? Or is it more of like a West Ham where he should take that big old bag of cash and the life of living in London at night and all the things that come with it for a little less ambition? Where would you roll?
I mean, for me, it would be a club like a Brighton would be a good spot for him. Someplace like that, which promotes these like little bits and pieces of players out of nowhere. And I think that Gomez would actually highlight them and actually will get them a little bit further. Plus, get Milner there, so you have familiar faces to help you along through there. But either way, I think that if he does choose to go to like a Newcastle, I think that Newcastle on the verge of of European football. I mean, with how they work, I think that this is a good move for him no matter what. I mean, even if he went outside of England to a club that that's actually a Europa League spot or even a Champions League spot, it'd also be a good move for him. I mean, he would definitely make a good player in Germany, even in Italy. I think he'd probably make a pretty fair defender there. So, I mean, if I was an agent, I'd start shopping around for clubs that that he's going to get the play time from one. Also, right there, because he's at 27, he still technically has another 6-7 years as a good defender behind his belt. So if you go to a certain leagues that more or less go there and preserve players, then I think that it would be a great move for him. But ultimately, right there, I think that he's going to go and talk to Slot and see what Slot's goals are and what his plans are for him. I mean, for me, the comfort zone of having Konate not being healthy for 2 matches, it kind of does give a little bit of a light that Gomez has the potential to be a starter in this side.
Yeah, it's funny. Gordo mentions, and we're going to get to the match quickly, but would rather swap Gordon for a Diaz or another attacking winger, or if Salah moved on, wouldn't want to swap for Salah, but if he left, Gordon would be the move. And look, I know we struggle with the whole Gordon was, a blue-nosed shite, but he grew up a Red, and he clearly is a kid from Liverpool. He clearly cares an awful lot about the club. He had his head turned because he knows what a big move it would be for him. To me, there are certain transfers where I feel like when there is smoke, there is fire. And I feel like we keep seeing these reports that Gordon wants the move. Newcastle offered the move. Liverpool was extremely receptive to the move, countered with options. If this doesn't happen by the end of this window, I almost feel like it is already written into the cards. This is going to happen later or next summer. We'll bring Blake back in. We lost him for a moment there. No worries, buddy. I genuinely think this move is going to happen, and I didn't at the initial rip. But the more I look into it, the player's skill sets, and I didn't realize this, Schlotz tried to sign him twice from Everton on loan when he was a youth player. So he has had his eyes on this player. So he believes he fits his system and fits his attributes. Plus, we always talk about how great it is having Mo run in on defenders from the right. Arguably last year, the most effective winger in the entire Premier League was Anthony Gordon, statistically, by the numbers. And I know we love to shit on his diving and some of the issues, but We also made excuses for Suarez when he dove, and Mo's first couple of years, and we can all be honest, they were soft dives at the beginning. Mo has strengthened himself because he realized he isn't going to get the call, so he just takes the shit, right? So to me, Gordon he is almost like a duck to water in this system, and he knows the city. And I genuinely believe we'd forget quickly about his Everton days if he played as well as he did last year. Sir Z, you are our longest standing Red. You are the only person to ever reside in England for that I know of. What will it be like if Anthony Gordon someday is doing the Liverpool lean?
I know, it'd be brilliant. I don't think anyone would remember he played for Everton. You got like Steve McMahon, he's a legend. He played for Everton. So
thank you.
And people forget, I don't think anyone would hold it against. I know Liverpool fans won't hold it against him, especially as good as he is. And like I said, I think it's one of them transfers kind of just destined to happen. Just like Gravenberch. I mean, Gravenberch was linked with us for so many years and eventually happened. And even back in the day, we had like Nigel Clough. Like everyone's like, oh yeah, Nigel Clough's the best Liverpool player not to play for Liverpool, and then it became the best Liverpool player not to play for Liverpool.
Right.
So, it's just one of them players that seems like it's in the stars for him to play with us. And with Richard Hughes having that connection with Eddie Howe, I think it's just a matter of time before we twist the arm strong enough that they'll let him go for a good price.
So let's get to tonight's match. Let's look at the lineup here. Reds lineup is in. Once again, we will just destroy these people for putting together match day squad lineups like this. Give it to us in positional order, not numerical, especially in preseason when all the numbers are large and at the bottom. But Kelleher obviously starts in goal. It looks like we're going to have a center back pairing that we expected of Vandenberg and Kwanzaa with Simicast for, maybe his last time on the left. We'll see. Simicast starting on the left, and of course, Bradley on the right. Midfield, little shocked that Jones makes the lineup after not featuring in practice, but I'm excited to see him there. And he's going to be obviously with Carvalho, Salah, Soboslai. I'm assuming, Sir Z, this is Jones and Elliott in the holding roles?
Yeah, I just realized Endo, I thought it was the same team as the last game, but I saw Endo on the bench and Jota's come in for Endo. Other than that, it's like a similar, I don't know. Who plays DM?
Gordo says, considering we traveled with this is a decent lineup. I don't disagree with that. I guess there's a couple surprising things here, and I think we should point out as we look at that bench that not only did Gravenberch show up, Kanate came in early too.
Yeah.
Good on Kanate, because this is a huge season, in my opinion, for Kanate. So I'll go to you on this one, Blake. When you see this lineup, what jumps out at you? What are you most excited to see? What are you looking for tonight from this side?
That's a solid lineup you got there. I'm excited to see some of the newer, like Carvalho. I didn't get to watch the Pittsburgh game, so I'm excited to see what he can do. I'm excited to see what Sepp Vandenberg can do. I'm always excited to see Harvey Elliott in there. I'm hoping, this will be my first look at Slot's tactics and system. So I'm excited to see how he does against the formidable opponent in Arsenal, but they're also missing a lot of their studs. So I'm looking. I want to see how he sets up. I want to see his tactics. It's my first game, so I want to see how it looks and against Arteta's Arsenal.
Brian, what exactly are you hoping for? Sparky Parky jumps in with just hoping for no injuries, and I couldn't agree with him more. That's honestly what I'm always looking for, which is what makes me a little surprised about the Jones inclusion, but it also makes me confident because it makes me think that pulling him out in the 30th minute was just because he felt a niggle. And they were like, if you feel anyone, you ask off. And then he jumps off and he's already ready to play again. Because I've said this before. I was a Jones out guy for 2 straight years on this podcast, and I got destroyed by everybody. And I came full turn about a year and a half ago. And I honestly believe that Arne Slot would like to build this midfield around Curtis Jones if he can. Because what he asks for is ball control, quick passes, movement, and don't lose the ball. And it's the number one thing Curtis Jones improved upon in his game. I genuinely think that a Curtis Jones, McAllister deep-lying midfield 2 with Soboslai and Elliott in front of him as the 10s could be the gold that unlocks this whole Slot era, to be honest. But it'll be interesting to see what happens. So, Brian, when you look at that lineup, before we start talking about Arsenal, what has been your biggest thing from that lineup? What's your takeaway? What do you want to see out of it?
Okay, so one of my takeaways is Endo on the bench. So I think that Endo's performance that he had against Betis right there was pretty rough, and I think that him being on the bench right there is kind of says something right there that he maybe got that look that he wanted to see. One thing I want to see was where's Carvalho going to get placed at in that midfield, where they decide to put him, because he's more of a playmaker, kind of like a Coutinho type of player with how his passing and that movement there. Him accenting also where Harvey's going to sit at. So those are my 2 things to look at. I think that Jota definitely is going to probably sit in the 9 spot. So so we already pretty much know where he's at. But that midfield, I just want to see how that shifts and changes as it goes. But definitely, I think that Jones right there is more of a straightforward attacking type of midfielder, and I think that is going to see how that accents Carvalho with the way he plays. And I think that it's a very strong lineup right there, aside from having Bajcetic in there or Endo as holders. So be fascinating to see how everything works out. I think that Kwanzaa definitely with Vandenberg, I think it's our go-to at the moment until we get more people in. And Simicast, maybe this might be Simicast's last match, like you said.
Sparky does what he always does, which is jump in with a negative Jones comment. And the only thing I would have expected quicker would be Saidu to jump in but clearly he is campaigning somewhere in Africa at the moment. But sorry, Gally, can't build a team around Jones. And I respect your opinion, Sparky, and I know you have never liked the player. The truth of the matter is this is the second manager who has tried to build a midfield around this player. And anyone who doesn't believe that last season's whole entire goal was around Jones taking the genie role on the left-hand side of midfield, he got every start. And 2 years ago, when we almost fell out of Champions League and we won our way out and got back into it and rebuilt everything to allow us to sign McAllister and all these great players, it was Jones starting 10 of the last 15 games of that season. That changed everything for us. So I get it. There's something about him. They either love him as a Scouse or they hate you as a Scouse, right? It's one or the other. If his last name was something that ended in I and was Italian, everyone would rave about his skill sets and what he does and his attitude. But for some reason, because he's English and we don't understand what the hell he's saying on a regular basis when he speaks, we can't believe in anything. But let's look at the other English side that's setting up tonight. Obviously, another ridiculous lineup in ridiculous order, but I don't get any numbers. Whoa, they did it right. People have talked about this being a weakened Arsenal side. Sir Z, I want to start with you on this. To me,
that's a strong side.
This gives me pause and peril because they are missing 5 of their best players. And I still think that's a side that could finish in the Champions League in England. So we had this comments just starting in our Discord channel. Where are you at what Arsenal is doing currently with their recruitment, their work, the signings they're making? There's reports today they signed Mikel Moreno from Real Sociedad. the really good Spanish midfielder, adding even more depth. So when you look at this lineup, what are you expecting from Arsenal tonight? What do you expect to be the problems Liverpool has to deal with?
I think other than Zinchenko, that's a really strong lineup. They even have a Salah on the bench. Yeah. Oh. It's a good test for us. I'd be surprised if Arsenal don't give us a really hard game, given the players that they have. That's pretty much like you said, that team can get into the top 4 easy. So it'll be a good challenge for us. I know Arteta always wants to make a point against us, so it'll be a tough game. It's I didn't expect to see that many first team or that many strong players in that team.
Gordo says 100% top 4 squad here and not close to their best 11. I absolutely agree. I mean, you're talking about you don't have in here their 4 best center backs in Gabriel, Cagliafiore, Saliba, and Urian Timber, who might also be their best backup right back and their best left back. Yeah. And Ben White might be one of England's better center backs that doesn't play center back anymore. It's actually a really, really deep squad. You realize it more and more when you start to see guys like they bought a guy today to replace Partey behind Rice. So now Partey is their 3rd best holding midfielder. You have Odegaard. You aren't even putting in Saka in here. You know, Jesus, from all accounts, looks outstanding. So, Blake, I'll throw it over to you here. What would you expect from Arsenal's side today, and what do you want to see Liverpool's focus in today's match to be? Is it defensive solidity? Is it trying to go forward, create breaking the lines? Like, where do you think Liverpool needs to try to attack this Arsenal side to continue the progression under Slot?
I think you're gonna have to either break the lines or because you know how Slot, he doesn't want to give up the ball. So if you do break the lines, you turn it over, you're gonna have to go. Everybody's gonna have to hustle back. I have to say I was shocked at that squad. I wasn't expecting that strong of a squad from Arsenal with seeing the people that they brought over. I wasn't expecting all those guys to be playing tonight. So I was surprised by that, but I'd like to see Slot give them everything they got. I didn't get to see. Is Calafiori there too?
No, Calafiori is not featured today. He is not going to be part of the matchday squad, which is scary that they get even better.
Okay, because I wasn't sure if I thought I heard he was coming to the U.S., but I wasn't sure.
He is coming over. He has met up with the squad, but he is not there at this point. Sparky says, would like to be able to contain Arsenal, but can't see it happening. I'll say this right now. I think if Liverpool concede 2 or less goals tonight, this is an absolute great sign, because with arguably not a single starter who will be playing against Ipswich in the back 5, to be fair. If you can keep a great scoring European side to under 2 goals in the preseason, then I think the players are starting to understand what's being asked of them. And to me, what I saw in Pittsburgh was some really good moments and really mediocre moments of a team in transition. Sir Z, do you think it's as much transition as it is understanding? Or it's just we needed to buy a few players to make this side deeper, and we're playing with guys who probably aren't good enough for the depth? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, we have a deep squad. I mean, a lot of these players that they've been there for 7 years under Klopp, a lot of their playing is like all muscle memory. I think some of the stuff they have to unlearn, especially from what Jones has said, and I touched upon it on the last post game that like what Trent said in his interview, that we were a counter-attacking team, so we didn't mind giving up possession. We're going the opposite way by the sounds of it with Slot, and the midfield's going to be key and keeping that position. I think that's why, as much as Sparky Parker doesn't want to hear it, I think we're going to revolve around that midfield's going to revolve around Jones because of that possession. Just keeping that possession, that's Jones' strength. Jones, McAllister, very rarely did I give the ball away unless it's a misplaced pass. But to get the ball off them, it's really hard. And I think that's where today's going to be one in midfield. And I think going forward, that's our tactics, just everything around the midfield.
I don't disagree with you. I definitely think he plays a key role. I think there are a lot of players that play a key role. Brian, what are you looking for specifically today from Liverpool? What makes this a successful match in your eyes?
One, like Sparky Parker said, no injuries. The other part right there would be see how exactly we are able to contain Martinelli, because that's always been a problem for us many times, even with our starting 11. Just to see how Bradley is able to handle him and see how that works. I'm not more concerned about Jesus because I think that this is not even a starting lineup, not even close to it. This is almost like a Carabao Cup lineup, almost to a point, right? Way this is. I mean, to see how the midfield is able to tick, I'm really concerned about. But look at that lineup and looking at Carvalho and see how he's going to go up against Odegaard and in that midfield and even Partey. I think that's a challenge that's going to be for him, even though because he was only playing in the championship with Hull for like the last half of the season. So to see how that works, I think that Harvey can handle himself. I think that Jones can be able to handle himself. It's these players who are just like the bit part players and see how they're able to go there to go up this challenge.
Matoush jumps in with, I'm really curious to see how this system looks with a more natural 9 in Jota, to see what Slot was talking about when he mentioned not having a 9. And I think this is a really great point that he makes. I think we saw a lot of what could be considered like a false 9, kind of like a fraud slot formation with that 4-2-4. And I don't think we're going to play a lot of that. I think we're going to play more of a 4-2-3-1. And I'm hoping we see a little bit more of that tonight. He has boasted about what he plans to do with Nunez. And maybe that's, Gordon and Edwards and Edwards and everybody and Hughes saying, hey, we ain't selling this player. So get behind that SOB from Uruguay because we need that crazy man scoring some goals. Or maybe he sees him and says, wait, I play with a non-traditional point forward. He can hold up the ball, but he needs to have movement. He needs to be able to run. But ultimately, he needs to create moments. And the one thing we've seen, whether he can finish those moments, Nunez can create them and put him in the position.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see a little bit of, like Matoush says, a little bit of the Jota in that 9 role in Slot's tactics, because as great of a finisher as Jota is, I don't know that he has the athletic ability in the boots to get to the places on the pitch Nunez can get to and create the mismatches against defenders he can, which is the difference. So I'm really excited about that because I want this to work. And I think for this to really work, especially this season, Nunez has to be a big part of it. So throw back to you here, Zerzi. What do you expect from Jota tonight? What do you expect from the striker position moving forward in this overall setup?
I think Jota, like you said, athletically, can't really compare him with Nunez. But like how Ian Rush was back in the day, he wasn't the paciest, but he was 10 steps ahead of the defender in his brain. And Jota's a really intelligent striker. So if you can hold the ball or find that space or create the space for Salah to run into, or obviously Nunez isn't playing today, but just making them intelligent runs. And he's always had that one up on Arsenal because he's intelligent. Arsenal always struggled against Rush, struggled against Fowler. And Jota's that kind of player. He's really intelligent. He knows when to get a tactical foul and get that dive when he needs to. And that's what we need. We need someone intelligent up front and someone who's going to press the defense. So they obviously defend from attack. And I think the key is how Salah, I mean, he seemed off the pace last game, but I'll put that down to the pitch. We'll see how pacey he is today. But I think he's my key player that I'm going to watch today.
As consistent as the day that ends in Y, Matuch will find a way to throw a shot at Jota. So all Jota knows is a finish, but that's all you want sometimes. And I don't disagree with either of those comments, by the way. All I want is my striker to finish, and all Jota knows how to do is finish, because he's the only player I can ever remember having an 80-minute absolute abject 4.1 performance and then bag you a brace between 81 and 83, and you win a match 2-1, and everybody heralds for a week about how great he was. Jamie even jumped in and said, was wondering where all the chat was on Discord. You're all here, for fuck's sake. We are, James. And for those who don't know, we have a Twitter, or we have a Discord channel and environment. It's a great experience. I'll try to share it later tonight, a link. You can get in arguments about food, drink, sport, baseball, cricket, Olympics. You can talk about the women's side. You can talk about transfers. You can whine about Liverpool, or you can just learn what is being smoked somewhere in the woods in the middle United States. You can also learn sometimes about our buddy Gordo here and what he does to ducks, which I don't recommend for anyone in the morning to find out. It's not nefarious. It's not illegal, but they may be slaughtered and they may be eaten before you know it. But before we get to that, we got to talk about paying the bills here. And we're not talking about advertising. We're talking about paying the bills and the type of bills that you should want to support. So we will be doing a 24-hour podathon, which means me, Bickler, and Timuchin will strap ourselves into chairs for 24 hours straight to speak to all of you. Before you run, delete your internet subscriptions and figure out ways not to be online. We're going to be raising this money for the 23 Jamie Carragher Foundation, which supports amazing things all across England with regards mainly to children. They have mental health items. They have food security items. They do so much to help. We have a ton of awesome prizes and items that you can bid on that we're going to have a silent auction. We are also looking to get sponsors by the hour. So we're taking $100 to $250 per hour from businesses. We would love to have you get involved. We'll bring you on the pod if you sponsor an hour. You can give a little plug for your organization or for the item that you are trying to highlight. We'll even clip and professionally edit that down to give back to you to share in your social media channels. We want to give back, but more importantly than anything, we want to raise a lot of money for a great cause. There will be a GoFundMe, and there'll also probably be a price that you can pay at a top level, and we will stop broadcasting. So if you come up with that number, whatever Jerry's total, I always say, whatever the podathon goal is, if you will submit all of that money before it begins, we promise you we won't even go on air. So in most editions, we are also looking for additional items to include in our silent auction. So if you have a Liverpool item, a scarf, maybe an artwork, a book, an autographed item that you're willing to contribute, we would love to highlight that and get it involved, because we just want to raise as much money as we can for the Carragher Foundation so we can continue to bring additional items over. So, last but Gordo says John will do a personalized TikTok dance for the highest bidder. I would love to pay for that because in all of our morning shows, I've always wanted to know exactly how tall John is. Because I really want to believe he is not as tall as I am, so I can be taller than someone on the American Scouser podcast, which is crazy because I think between me, Bickler, and Timuchin, I'm the tallest, which basically makes me the largest midget at the circus. But let's get into it here, guys. We got 3 more minutes, and I want to give you a few seconds to get to back to the TVs, maybe hit a bathroom break. So, predictions for tonight. We're going to start with you, Brian.
2-2. I think
2-2.
Arsenal. Yep, 2-2. I think Arsenal will be strong in the first half, and I think they'll lighten up their load, and then we'll score 2 in the second half.
Blake, we will go to you next. Your first prediction to get wrong on American Scouser TV. What say you?
I gotta go. He took mine. I was gonna go 2-2. I think we both get one in the first half, and we each get one in the second half. I think it trades off.
Sir Z, where are you at with us, brother?
I'll go 3-1. Salah makes Zinchenko cry, and Slot absolutely goes apeshit on the defense for conceding 1 goal.
I love that second half of the call because I do think he wants clean sheets. I think he cares so much about organization, and I love it. Matouche says 7-5. It has to happen at some point. Sparky rolls in with a 3-1 win. I'm sure he expects 2 mistakes by Jones to give up goals and probably an own goal off of Jones for the third. And Dial LFC credits. Kedits jumps in with I think 2-1 Liverpool win. And thanks for checking us out tonight. Always love a new viewer to the pod. So for Blake, myself, Brian, Sir Z, awesome time tonight. We do plan to do a post-match show. It will happen shortly after the final whistle. So probably right around 9:30 because who in the hell in America wants extra time? Let's shoot for 9:30 because it's really late in London. For everybody who checked us out tonight, for all of those filling in on YouTube, Instagram, X, wherever you are, please go over to the YouTube page, give it a like, give it a subscribe, click all those buttons as Timuchin would say, except for the thumbs down. You can bleep that one off the screen. We will be back post-match. Have a great week, and thanks for watching the show.
Enjoy.
Yep.